Hi guys, and welcome back to Z Talks FPL, and we are now recording the Gameweek 8 podcast. Firstly, a big apologies to all my subscribers and followers. Last week I did record the Gameweek 7 podcast, but it didn't really have the time to upload it. The schedule was a little busy. I had a few things going on at home. I was tweeting every now and then, but that's just me with my phone at work or while I am traveling here and there. Didn't really have the time to upload it. It's a large file, so apologies for that. But I'll make sure that going forward, every week there is some sort of content to look forward to, and uh, the podcasts that I do are normally quite big in terms of length. So. We always keep it elaborate, right? That's the whole idea. So apologies once again, and big thank you for tuning into my channel. If you have not already done it, make sure that you subscribe it, drop a like, and follow me on Twitter. And yeah, let's get started. We will first look at my game week 7 score. uh, I got like 60 points, and I took a -8. Now, by the look of it, obviously, it is not a good look that I'm getting a -8 out of the score that I got. But if you really take the context of my team, the -8 really helped me get to even the 60 points that you see on the screen. So what I did was I had Gyökeres in my team, and I was really keen on having at least two Arsenal defenders. So that was a thought process. I already had Calafiori in my team because I mean I've spoken about this on Twitter as well. I really like how attacking he is, and even with a slight rotation risk in terms of his minutes, I still feel that with the kind of attacking upside that he has, he's really worth it in FPL this year, especially at that price. So I just had Calafiori as my only Arsenal defender. What I thought was that I didn't really like a lot of what I was seeing from Gyökeres, and despite the fact that I got him in as an insurance because a lot of people have him, I took the brave step of taking him out. And what I did was I downgraded him to a Mark Gui, who is now a bench option for me. He'll always be third on the bench unless he becomes a starter later in the season, which I don't think is very likely to happen. So I took Gyökeres out. What I did was I upgraded Goodmanson and Steve, the two 4 million defenders, and I got Gabriel and Julian Timber in, and both of them did really well. So very good scores from the three Arsenal defenders in my team. Uh, I was a little disappointed with Bournemouth. I feel that Fulham were not really good in terms of their attack. Right, I was looking at this as a fixture where I expected them to keep a clean sheet, but it did not happen. Petrovic got a save point, so he ended up on 3 points. Senesi, a disappointing game for him as well. While he was doing okay in terms of his defensive contribution points, because Bournemouth were really chasing the game, he was taken off for an extra attacker, and Bournemouth did end up winning the game. Uh, I just feel even though it's not an immediate worry, but it was interesting to me that when Bournemouth were chasing the game and they had to take a defender off, they actually took Senesi out. So that becomes interesting because that tells me that the manager does not look at Senesi as someone who is like the first choice here. That yes, he's one of the two defenders that will always start a game, but that substitution really tells me that. If he really has to put it down in terms of the number, in terms of the importance of centre backs in the team, I don't think Senesi is the first name on the sheet, right? He's probably the second best centre back in the team as per the Bournemouth manager. That is what my takeaway is. So, but again, not much to worry. I think Senesi will definitely play. 90 minutes in most games, right? I think in 95, 98% of games, I think you expect a centre back to start and complete the 90 minutes. So, not much to worry about that. Uh, Reinders, I felt, was a little unlucky not to get any return, but it's been that case for most of the season for him. Bruno Fernandes should have scored. So, that's again, Caicedo did really well for me. Very happy with that goal. I think he got some bonus points as well, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, he got three bonus points actually. So that is terrific. Uh, this could have been 12 points, by the way, because I am sure that Caicedo ended up on 11 DEFCON as well. So he was just one defcon away from getting the extra 2 points. So it's very rare that Caicedo does not get any defcon points, and I think this was one of the games. I think a lot of that was partly down to the Chelsea players really just getting injured towards the end of the game, especially in the in the second half in general. So with the new players that sort of came in, I think Caicedo was really just sitting back, and it was Romeo Lavia who I think came on, and he was sort of racking up some of those positions, which really helps Caicedo get the ball recovery points. But he got 10 points, not much to complain there. People can talk about his XG or the fact that he's not scored a lot of goals before. Listen, I don't care about that. The fact is that he's just 5.5. He's now went up in price, and he's now 5.7 in fact, and he's getting the odd goal here and there, and he looks like he will get defensive contribution points in most games. We will talk a little bit more about Caicedo and other Chelsea players very soon later in the episode. But yes, very happy to have him in the team. Very happy for those 10 points. I obviously have Haaland. He's been in my team since game week 1. Remember, I was the first one in the community to make this bold claim that if he stays fit for 38 games, if he's staying fit for the entirety of the season, I am really backing Erling Haaland to score 40 Premier League goals this year, right? He's just in that kind of headspace where he looks sharp. His all-round game has really gone to another level. He's matured as a player, so it was not surprising to see Haaland score a goal from absolutely nothing, and that was really my thinking, right? So it's really a case of decision making almost going right, but still backfiring at the same time, because I captained Salah in the Chelsea game, and if you follow me, I've also captained Salah in the last game in the previous game week. When he played Crystal Palace, and my thinking with these two game weeks was in from Haaland's perspective, right? So in the Burnley game, a lot of people triple captained him. All right, and if you look at the Burnley game, people were not happy with what they were seeing for almost the entirety of 90 minutes. But in the last 3 minutes, the Burnley defenders make stupid mistakes, and they end up gifting a goal. Not just a goal, in fact, they gifted 2 goals to Erling Haaland. And in FPL terms, 2 goals means 13 points, pretty much. Because before that, Haaland was on 5 points. He just had an assist. He did not have any bonus points at all. Suddenly, he scores a goal, and then suddenly he is getting that 4 points, for that goal, and he's getting the 3 bonus points, and then he has another 4 points because of that stupid goal he scores at the end. So I think that was very harsh on me for taking that chance and captaining Salah against Palace, who again really looks like a shadow of himself this year, right? Because if you look at the kind of game weeks where I've captained Salah this season, I've captained him against Chelsea this week. I've captained him against Crystal Palace last week, and I also took a punt on a Salah captaincy when I think Liverpool played Arsenal. So if you look at Salah historically, these are the kind of opponents he really likes to come against, right? He really loves playing against them, loves a goal or two against them. There's a lot of space to attack, right? And it's very rare that Salah is struggling even in the games where there's a lot of space to go and attack and punish the opponent. So it's just been that kind of season. I have spoken a lot about how Arne Slot is doing a lot of wrong things, and I think apart from the Arne Slot factor, a major factor has been the kind of signings that he's made. So if you look at Liverpool as an attacking unit in the past, all right, they had players like Darwin Nunez, Bobby Firmino, Sadio Mane, uh, even the late Diogo Jota to an extent, or even Luis Diaz. Right now, these were the players who really played to Salah's strengths, and none of them were known. Maybe apart from Mane to an extent, none of them were really known to be out and out goal scorers. Now, with the kind of signings that Liverpool have made this year, it's looking a little different. So we'll talk about the whole Liverpool dynamics later in the episode as well. But yeah, long story short, it didn't quite work out for Salah against Chelsea as well. I feel in the second half he could have got a return or something, uh, but I mean, never throughout the game as a captainer. I was convinced that yes, Salah is going to score. Right, he really didn't. I know there's a lot of talk that he took the most shots in the game and stuff like that, but the really half. He was just blasting the ball. He was just cutting inside and blasting the ball. Right, and it's not, and that's not good football, right? You Salah has been so successful in the past because he's always played higher probability football. We'll talk a bit more about that later. What is high probability football and stuff like that? I mean, I've spoken about it, in some of my previous episodes. I've spoken about it a lot on my Twitter, but yeah. At the moment, I don't think Salah is playing high probability football, and that's a sign that the wheels are falling off. The Salah that we know is not the same player anymore, but we'll talk about that. In terms of the benching, I think I got pretty much the benching spot on. I was very close to playing Anderson against Newcastle with the whole Anderson playing his former club logic, but I am glad I didn't really do that. I backed Caicedo and Reinders, and even though Reinders did not do much, he was very close to scoring at one point. So yeah, happy with that decision. Overall, happy with the team as well. I feel the structure is pretty nice, and but yes, there is a big problem, and I'll tell you what that problem is. The problem is this guy, and in the very first very first match of the game week, if you were watching the Bournemouth Fulham game, right? I think everything was fine until the 70th minute or something, and my reason to not own Semenyo so far has always been the fact that I felt that he's not really doing much in terms of justifying his returns, right? Just a lot of fancy, I would say, fancy goals that he scored. So the free kick that he scored against Chelsea, if you look at the replay, I mean, that's just bonkers, right? You don't expect a player to sort of sustain that kind of the free kick that he scored, for example, right? Before that, in the Newcastle game, he doesn't do much, but he gets defensive contribution points and ends up on 5 points. That was again a joke, right? Uh, Brighton game. Now the XG numbers look good because suddenly he ends up taking a penalty. You can talk about narratives, but I'm sure before game week 4, no one was talking about Semenyo being an option in their team because he takes pens. Why? Because we all expect Ivan Nilsson to take the penalty. So Ivan Nilsson wins the penalty in the Brighton game, and who ends up taking the penalty? It was Antoine Semenyo, and we didn't really know that. The assist that he got was just a very simple pass, and I think it was Scott from Bournemouth who just absolutely scores a worldie, and he gets an assist point for that. And obviously, if you're getting two returns, you're bound to get three bonus points. So I think the Fulham game was also very frustrating from that perspective, right? Where I've just held on to my horses, saying that this cannot continue and stuff like that. But he's just playing. He's looking like a player who has just so much confidence. This year when he's in, just taking on defenders and attacking the box. So, in the Fulham game, he scored that first goal, right, where he just took on defenders and he somehow gets the shot away, and from that very weird, like, 180-degree angle, and he somehow scores from that. I'm like, fine, all right, great, chalo. Not the end of the world. That's a worldie. It's a terrific goal. Hats off. I'll clap. Well done and all that. Few minutes later, he plays a 2-yard pass to Clivert, who comes on. Clivert goes, takes on one defender, two defender, absolutely blasts it from 25 yards out, and that's a goal. And to make it worse, it's an assist for Semenyo, uh, for scoring an absolute goal, worldie from an impossible angle, and then getting an assist for a 2-yard pass. Suddenly, he is on 13 points. To make matters worse, almost the last minute of the game, and uh, Bournemouth are on the counter because Fulham had a corner, and they lose possession, and Bournemouth are on the counter, and Semenyo's not even anywhere close to the goal, and I think it was Ben Duak who's running with the ball, and I'm just looking, okay, there's no sight of Semenyo. Ben Duak is gonna go. I think it is Ben Duak, if I'm not wrong. Sorry if I got that player's name wrong. So the player is just running with the ball. He's through on goal, and I'm just thinking myself that great, okay, he's probably gonna have a shot at goal. If he scores, it doesn't matter. If he doesn't score again, it doesn't matter. From an FPL perspective, no more damage. He does not take a shot. He keeps running with the ball, comes in, he's got the keeper in front of him. He just puts that ball, he just squares it inside the box, and there are players making a run. It does not go to Evan Wilson or there's another Bournemouth player. He actually ends up going to Semenyo, who just ran all the way from that box, from that penalty area to this penalty area, crashes the box, one touch shot, goal, and from 13 he's now gone up to 18 points. So it was such a frustrating game to watch, and yeah, very, very, very frustrating. I would say, and that was the first game of the game week. So not a good start at all for me, or the very few people like me who didn't really have Semenyo in the team. So I would say that was a very painful start from an FPL perspective. But that is the story, right? The story is that Semenyo is just looking like he's absolutely on that upward trajectory that we've spoken about in the previous episodes, right? It really looks like he just has that confidence to really just take on defenders, and he looks so secure. That shot that he took, the first goal, was terrific, right? You say hats off to that, but yeah, what happened after that? That jammy assist, and he's gotten so many of them. Uh, the season already, and of course the so-called last-minute goal that took him up to 18 points. But anyway, listen, if you have him in FPL, if you went him early on him, well done. This is what FPL is all about, right? At the end of the day, FPL is a game where we're just trying to predict outcomes. So if you try to predict the outcome for Semenyo and you got good points out of him, it's all about the points at the end of the day, right? No matter what an idiot like me tells you and other idiots tell you, right? None of that really matters if you take a decision that really works for you, right? So if you went in early on Semenyo, I know someone who's had Semenyo in the team since game week one, right? To pick Semenyo and play him against Liverpool in game week one, I think that was a move of a genius, right? Not a lot of people would have you know uh, picked Semenyo in game week one itself, and especially someone like me, I feel that I'm the kind of manager who, even if I had Semenyo in the first two game weeks, I would have in fact sold him, because I always look at the underlying data and I'm like, this guy's not really getting good numbers, right? So I am not unhappy with my decision making. Of course, it's a big blow to my rank because I am now down to around 2 million. But listen, it's very early days. I was just looking at the ranks on live FPL. There's not much in it, right? 40, 50 points is the difference, right? One or two good game weeks, and I'll be back in the top 100k, and then we can obviously build momentum from there. So that's FPL in a nutshell. Now that I've seen enough evidence that Semenyo is absolutely on a different level, finally have a decision to make. So we'll talk about that. Not much to discuss in the Spurs and Leeds game. I feel that it's the same story, I would say, for Spurs, where I feel that they're really overperforming this season. So we'll talk a bit more about that. But apart from that, not much here. If you still have Kudus in your team, well done. He got 12 points out of it, and to me that was the highlight. Not much. I think in terms of the attack, Spurs did look a bit flat, to be honest. I don't know why Thomas Frank is not giving Richarlison a consistent run of starts. So if you own Richarlison, obviously it's a bad luck sort of a thing, I would say, because Matthias Tel has not really looked the part. But listen, he got to start against Leeds, and he's now scored a goal. So I think that Richarlison punt of 2 weeks, I think you really, if you had him in your team, it was really for those 2 weeks. So I think it's a good time to sort of move him on now, right? I don't really look at him as someone that should be in your team for the longer run. So take this as an excuse, and you can probably move him on. Arsenal and West Ham was a beautiful game to watch, especially as someone who had three defenders in the team. It's just amazing. Having Timber, Gabriel, Calafiori. Arsenal looks so secure, and I spoke about this in one of the previous podcasts, that I really feel that with the kind of defensive solidarity that Arsenal are showing this season, I think they could be on course to. In fact, I said this to one of my friends on Twitter, so Nighthawk FPL. He's an Arsenal fan, and I was talking to him, and I told him that we were just discussing, and he also agrees with this thought that I really feel this could be a season where, despite their limitations going forward, like with someone like a Gyökeres, this could be the season where Arsenal end up either winning it or once again finishing second, I would say. Uh, but the conclusion is that they should be one of the top two teams once again this season because they look so solid at the back, right? They never look like they're going to concede a goal. That's how good they are, right? At this point, and I will probably back them to get very close to the record that Mourinho's Chelsea had back in the day. I think they conceded just, if I'm not 15 goals, if I'm not wrong, back in the day. Yeah, terrific, terrific. I think that's gonna be the target, and I'm sure that's something that Arteta will have in his mind, that he needs to set some sort of record, right? If not through attack, he will definitely try to win it through his solid defense. United had a good result. It's a shame that I was not able to upload the recording of my previous podcast episode because I did a lot of talking about Manchester United and Sheshko, who actually ended up scoring a goal. And United looked really good, I would say, once again, which is not surprising. I know that there's been the narrative that United have been inconsistent. I don't think that's the case. Yes, their finishing has been inconsistent, but I think with what I'm seeing in terms of their performance and some tweaks here and there, I think United will be one of the top teams very soon, in a few weeks. Chelsea Liverpool game we spoke about, not much to talk about there. I don't want to talk about Villa Burnley because I don't think players from either of the teams are really valid at FPL options. So I will not waste our time sort of going through them. Uh, Everton, Palace. I'll talk about Palace a little bit when we go through the table. Like I said, right, I just want to go through the thing that we'll do after the game week review is we'll just look at the Premier League table and just try to understand what the XG trends are, sort of whether they are telling a story or not, and also we look at some of the upcoming fixtures for some of the teams that we want to target. I'll just take a sip of water. Sorry. Where were we? Yeah, we were the Everton Palace game. See, it's obviously we'll look at the Palace options in detail, but my takeaway from this game was something that I've spoken a lot about in the previous episodes. Right, I've always mentioned that whenever I've looked at Palace, they've not been very convincing to me. Despite the fact that they've got good results on board, and that's not down to the fact that they're bad or the manager Glasner is bad. I think it's just the workload is sort of taking a toll on them, and that was the reason why they did not get a positive result against Everton. And along with the fact that I actually spoke to a lot of Crystal Palace fans uh, last week, and they told me that they are never confident when they're playing Everton, right? And that turned out to be true. You can call it a coincidence or whatever, but if you look at their games historically, Everton always do well against Palace, at least when you look at the recent history. And that was a similar case again. I think Palace had a chance to really kill the game, right? In the first half, in the first, I would say 50, 60 minutes, Palace really were in the game, but after that they looked really leggy, they looked very tired. I think that's one of the reasons why Mateta is struggling a bit this season, because despite the fact that I think Mateta this season has the second highest XG among 24 minutes, not bad. Sorry, yeah. I think Mateta has the second highest XG in the league this season after Haaland, and he scored just a couple of goals, and I think one of them was from the penalty spot, if I'm not wrong. So he's getting a lot of chances, but he's not able to finish them because he looks fatigued. Uh, in moments here and there, I think he looks really tired, and now we have the Enketia factor if you want Mateta. So that's one other thing, but yeah, we'll go into that in detail later. But long story short, I think Palace looked really leggy in the last, I would say, just putting the below back there. Yeah, in the last 20-30 minutes, and I think Everton did well to capitalize on that. Uh, and I think it was a fair result, to be honest. Anyone who had monos in the team was sort of rewarded with the goal. So well done if you had monos in the team. I was looking at a lot of tweets that he was unlucky to not get a 17 pointer. I don't think so, right? If you defend that badly uh, in the Premier League, right? Remember, it's a Premier League. You It's not over till it's over in a Premier League game, right? You have to be on top of a game for uh, I would say almost 95% of the game, right? Any small mistake, dull moments can be punished, and you cannot go unpunished if you look so tired, so lethargic, and you struggle for 20-30 minutes. I think he was lucky, in fact, to get the 8 points at the end of the day. So not too bad, I would say. If you had monos, 8 points, take it and run. And I think you should uh, sell him for one of the DefCon guys. I think there are better defenders to be had. Go with the trend, right? There are enough trends in terms of. We'll talk about the trends also, of course, later. Newcastle Forest, not much to talk about. I think Newcastle were, in control pretty much. Bruno Guimaraes did really well. I think he had a very good game. It's just a shame that Bruno Guimaraes does not get any defensive contribution points, right? If I think with the kind of positions that he's taking up, and I think if his role can change slightly, where he is given more responsibility to be the destroyer in the team, right? Where he's been asked to, just put in the tackles, recover the balls, and stuff like that. I think he could be a real option because he's playing like a proper box to box now, right? He has the license to, bomb up and down the pitch, make those runs inside the box. So that's the reality. But yeah, not really an option right now because there's no guarantee of how frequently those returns will come. And Eddie Howe's doing a lot of chopping and changing with his personnel as well. So a bit more on that later. I think Walter Made was terrific. Scored a great penalty. But Visa will be back, I think, in 2, 3, 4 weeks. So and Newcastle still have a little bit of tricky fixtures. We don't know what the rotation situation is, and I feel Walter Mate is he going to be the first choice penalty taker going forward? You know what, I think that he will take the next penalty as well, even if Gordon is on the pitch, because there's been a lot of narrative on Twitter that Gordon is the first choice penalty taker. I'm not so sure. I think Voltemade, being the number 9, he's gonna tell Eddie Howe that, listen, I want to take Pence because I was uh, going through his Bundesliga data as well in his previous club, and he used to take Pence for his previous club as well. So I think that really becomes a factor. It will be interesting to see the next time Newcastle get a penalty, and if Voltemade and Gordon are both on the pitch, I think I'm backing Voltemade to take the pen and obviously score it. He's a terrific penalty. I mean, did you look at the penalty? It was a beautiful penalty, right? Top left corner. I think just in terms of probability, I think that is the best penalty that you can ever score. Because if you look at the expected goal on target, is got like a 0.99 probability, which is the highest in football. That's the highest probability that you can have. It's said to be a penalty that a goalkeeper cannot save ever, right? If a goalkeeper saves that kind of penalty, it's called an anomaly. uh, and that's what I was taught when I was young as well, right? The coaches would always tell me that you go for the corner, and if you can go for the top corner. I know a lot of people say that you should go for the top, sorry, the bottom corner, but we were always told, and I always told. So I used to coach kids until last year, and I still do it every now and then on weekends. And I always tell them, go, top right corner. No keeper is saving that. If you nail it, and you practice it, you nail it, and you perfect it. Nothing like it. So yeah, I mean, from an FPL perspective, it meant that he scored that cracking goal because Newcastle defenders are so involved in the game, and the kind of, you look at their midfielders as well, right? Like a Bruno Guimaraes, right? He scores a goal and he's immediately getting a 3 bonus point. So Baltimore did not really good get any bonus points despite scoring the goal. And remember, the bonus point structure, the kind of scoring system has changed this year. So from the season, if your player is scoring a penalty, they'll get only a plus 12 in the bonus point system that we see down here. So I think if he scores a normal goal, he probably ends up with some sort of bonus. But because he scored a penalty, he did not really get any bonus points. So Burn got like, he got an assist and he got 2 bonus points. So yeah, apart from that, I don't see anything else worth discussing. Uh, don't really want to get into Wolves and Brighton. I know that people like Minte for Brighton, but not for me. I think Brighton is a team where even if they have good fixtures, I feel that the goals will be really spread out. So I don't really see a talisman, and I think the only player who is kind of talismanic for me in Brighton is actually Danny Welbeck. The problem is I'm not sure about his minutes. Right, that's the whole problem. And I think Welbeck is pretty much their first choice penalty taker as well, right? So I think with all these factors considered, I don't really look at Brighton as a team to target in terms of getting their players in, even if they have good fixtures. So yeah, don't really want to talk about them for the same reason I've said it in the past as well, and I still am, very much hell bent on that. Brentford 0, Man City 1, 1-0 game for City. I think it was a dull game overall, right? And I feel a lot of that was down to the fact that Rodri got injured uh, in the first half, and I think since then they didn't really have a shot on target. So I think it was just down to that, and I think Pep sort of sensed, the the kind of the nature of the game it was going to be, right? So City did a good job in terms of keeping the ball, and just seeing the game out. I think Ruben Dias had one of his best games this season. I think it was terrific towards the end where Guardiola made a mistake. I think he did really well to sort of, cover for him. Uh, Really nice interceptions, clearances, blocks. One of my friends actually has Diaz in the team, and obviously I advised him not to pick him, but he still did that anyway. And he got a 9 pointer out of it, right? Because so Diaz had a great game, kept a clean sheet, got a couple of bonus points, also got a bonus. Got a couple of defensive contribution points and also got 1 bonus point, so a 9 pointer for him. I feel that if you really want to go for a City defender, I think you should go for Ruben Dias, even though I don't really like the idea of picking a City defender. But if you really have to pick one, I think you should go for Ruben Dias. He's the first choice City defender, he's the leader in the defense. And if you look at DEFCON being a factor, the defender that is most likely, the City defender that's the most likely to get DEFCON is actually Ruben Dias. So I think he could be a nice punt if you really want a City defender. I don't like Guardiola from an FPL perspective because he's playing the centre back role. I don't see him playing a lot of games in the full back role because O'Reilly is doing really well in that left back role, and Ait Nouri will be back soon. So it's going to be the two of them that sort of rotate. Uh, and yeah, Guardiola, I don't really like him. I think if you watch the game, the kind of assist that he got was just a moment of brilliance from Haaland, where he just absolutely bullied the Brentford defense and scored that goal on his own. And he's not going to pick those kind of assists every single week. So I don't really see a lot of route to points for Guardiola in that sense, and he's not a very good pick in terms of DefCon as well, right? So that's my take on that. Rodri is not out for a while, so I don't think there's this much to look at. I think City will continue to be good. I think even without Rodri, City will continue to be good because with the new playing style that they have, it's just so much dependent on Haaland being the absolute powerhouse that he is. Right, it's a lot of direct football that this sort of. I feel they struggled against Brentford because Brentford is playing this really low block, right? They were just happy to sit and defend, and putting 10 players behind the ball, and showing no intention to really attack, except for the last few minutes, I would say. So I think it's these kind of games where City will miss Rodri, because he really offers that little bit in terms of tempo, right? Where they're just circulating the ball, and he's just spraying the ball around here and there, every now and then trying to just to switch the ball wide, maybe attempt a through pass, take a shot out of nowhere. And I think he really has that quality, that game IQ, to affect these games where teams are really sitting deep, but not much to talk home in general, right? So that's about the game week 7 fixtures review, I would say. What I want to do today, like I told you, is we'll just look at some trends in terms of the expected goal data, and see what sort of players that we can target for our teams. And I mean, see, Haaland really picks himself, right? There's a lot of spoken about Salah in the past as well, so I'll do a bit more digging. In terms of Liverpool, I spoke about the high probability game that Salah has played all these years. And he's not doing that anymore, and that's down to some of the signings that they've made. So we'll talk a bit more about that as well. Okay. And we'll talk a bit about Chelsea. I think it's worth discussing them with their fixtures sort of now heading towards that sort of green zone that I like to call it. We'll also focus a bit on Arsenal as well. I think we need to have triple Arsenal in the team, right? So we look at. I'll talk about Arsenal defenders. I'll talk about Gyökeres. I'll talk about Saka as well, and a bit of City and United as well, because a lot of FPL managers, a lot of my followers actually have Foden. They've actually got Doku in their team, right? So we'll just see if something will change after the international break, right? So we will jump to the Premier League table. So as you can see on the screen here, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the Premier League table on the FootMob app, FOTMOB. It's a great app. I really like. I've been enjoying using it. Uh, it's an ad-free app, so no stupid pop-ups. On your screen every now and then. It's very user friendly too. It's a great app. I am having a great time sort of using it, and I think you guys will sort of enjoy it too. So yeah, you should definitely check it out. Now back to the Premier League table, right? So what we see here obviously is the live Premier League table. So after 7 weeks, we've got Arsenal at the top, we've got Liverpool, we've got Spurs, we've got Bournemouth. But does this really tell us the true story of the season, right? Because if we're looking at the table, it shows that Liverpool is second. But what will help you make FPL decisions, and in general, just to understand football better, is to just look at the underlying data. The actual table will not tell you what's going to happen going forward. What's going to help you is trying to understand the trends, what their performances have been like, and stuff like that, right? So one way of looking at it is, you can obviously look at the goal difference, right? You look at Arsenal, for example. They really are playing like a top team. They've, even though the goals have been spread out, they've scored 14 goals, and they've just conceded 3 goals in 7. That is excellent. That is elite territory to me. Right? City also, look very good. But look at other things. You look at Manchester United, and they're 10th in the Premier League table. And you ask yourself, that has Manchester United been that bad? My answer is no. Obviously, if you want to get likes on Twitter, you can slander Manchester United and get a few likes on it and make fun of them about how they're struggling and stuff like that. But if you want to think of it objectively, I think when I look at United, their performances, like I said at the start of the podcast, maybe except for a couple of things, right? One thing that stands out to me is the inconsistency in terms of finishing, and second is the goalkeeping problem, which I believe they will now address it, because they played Lamens in the Sunderland game. So I think if they take care of these things, and it's going to be a very long season, right? Just 7 games in. But even in the 7 game, what I've seen from United, apart from a few things, right, which I believe will be fixed going forward, right, I think they are playing some good football, right. And I say this because right at the start of the season, I was actually invited as an FPL, as a football pundit uh, on a sports channel, on live TV in Africa, right? So they have a YouTube channel too. It's called VOP, Voice of People TV, and they, at the end of that the telecast, they asked me to pick my top four, and they asked me to pick a dark horse. I think my top four, very interesting and very controversially back then, because that was the time when everyone was picking Liverpool as the title favorites, right from your Sky Sports pundits, your Alan Shearers, your Gary Neville's, and Jamie Carragher's, and all these people had Liverpool are definitely going to do back, and it's not easy. Winning back to back Premier League titles is not easy. I think very few managers have that capability to go back to back. I think Sir Alex Ferguson, of course, the legend that he was, he has done it in the past, and of course the great Pep Guardiola as well, living legend in Manchester City, one of the greatest of all times. He is the other one. So you're looking at the two very best managers of all time, and they are the ones who are capable of doing this. It's not easy as it sounds, right? Because teams sort of come round to your playing style and stuff like that. And so what I actually, back to my predictions, I said that I expect City and Arsenal to sort of finish top two. I had Chelsea at third, and I had Liverpool at fourth actually. But what I did call out was that I picked my dark horses as Manchester United. People are not realizing we're just 7 games into the season, and I'll tell you why. All we have to do is you change this actual table to the XG table, all right, and then suddenly you look at the expected points table, okay, that takes into account the expected goal data, the expected goal against data, like the defensive data, and it gives you a picture of how good these teams actually have been so far, right? And Manchester United are not that bad. So my thinking was this, that I picked Manchester United as my dark horses for for the season. And the reason is very simple, right? They made some good signings, I believe, in the summer. And regardless of what you think, see, Amarim, their manager, is, yes, he's making some mistakes, right? But he's not a fool. He will learn and he will adapt. Maybe he does not change his formation, but I think he'll start making these little tweaks that will work for them. And he, even despite the fact, if you believe it's not working out for them, still look at their performance. They've not done that badly, right? So, I believe, keeping all that in mind, I believe that just games into the season, we have like another 30 plus games to come. I think once the fixtures sort of start piling up, a team like Liverpool will struggle even more. I think a Newcastle may not lose a lot of games, but we may see a lot of nil-nils, right? Because then they have to also compete in the Champions League, and the same applies to other teams that are playing in Europe, right? So I believe there is a world where Manchester United actually pick up pace, because they don't really have to worry about midweek fixtures. They don't have Europe to sort of look forward to. They're not playing the Champions League. They're not playing the Europa League. They're out of the Carabao Cup already, which I believe is a blessing in disguise, right? I know a lot of United fans were so mad about the fact that they lost to Grimsby, and I made fun of the fact that, see, you're Manchester United. If you are losing to Grimsby, people will laugh at you. So I also laughed at them. But when you look at it objectively, when you think of it objectively, it's a blessing in disguise. They don't really have to worry about that Mickey Mouse Cup, whatever you want to call it, uh, cup games. It's absolutely fine. So I think that's a big positive. So I think when other teams are sort of, the teams like Palace, the teams like Liverpool are sort of really trying to juggle between these Champions League games, and where they're traveling away. It's a trip to Europe, and there's a lot of traveling involved, right? Players are tired. There's jet lag. There's just more training sessions, more gaming time. I think that will really benefit United in the long run, right? So obviously with us kicking off this the Premier League table underlying data sort of discussion, I feel that Manchester United are a team that you really have to look at, and you have to look at them positively. Now again, there is the whole I would say that bad memories, right? Bad experiences where in the past, so United are playing Liverpool next, right? In the past, Liverpool have absolutely hammered Manchester United. Do I see that happening again? I know the a lot of my Twitter followers also will not agree to it. My answer is no. I don't see a hammering again. In fact, I think United can go to Anfield. I'm not sure if they're going to win the game, but I think they can get a draw out of it, or maybe they. I won't be surprised if they have a good performance there, all in all, right? Because you look at Liverpool right now. So we'll try to cover both these teams, in one go. All right. So you look at Liverpool, for example, they look really dysfunctional. So sorry for jumping, from United to Liverpool, right? Because this becomes very important in terms of the context of the Liverpool United game as well. Because I just cannot tell you that I think that United will do well against Liverpool without giving you a reason. The reason why I feel that is, like I told you at the start of the podcast, that you look at the Liverpool squad, right? And I know people don't like hearing this, but if you look at the seasons where Liverpool was successful, and or the seasons where they were really competing with City, for example, a lot of that was down to their quality going forward. I would say, in terms of how they attack the team, right? They were a team that will always be in the front. It was not down to Van Dijk or any of the defenders, because to me, if you look at the underlying data, even in seasons where Liverpool won the league, it was not that strong. They never had good defensive underlying data in the past. They just had a great keeper in Alisson and an absolute superstar in Mo Salah, and the fact that Salah always played high probability football. What I mean by high probability is that very rarely would you see Mo Salah or I would say top forward in the world, right? You think of Erling Haaland, or if you want to go in the past, you think of Ronaldo, Messi, you think of Ruud van Nistelrooy, you think of Robin van Persie in the past, you think of Sergio Aguero when he was doing. They always played high probability football, which means that very rarely would you see them spam shots regularly. Like, yes, every now and then they'll take a long shot and it goes in, right? But the very top attackers, they always like to take high probability shots. They play high probability football, which means they want to shoot as much as possible closer to the goal, because that the closer you are to the goal, you're in a better position, and that increases your chance of scoring a goal. You're either closer to the goal, or you have a cleaner shot available at the goal. That's the whole idea, and Salah was a master of this, right? And I feel a lot of it was down to the fact that, yes, one, Salah is obviously a brilliant footballer, but I think a lot of it was also down to the kind of players the kind of attackers that he had to support him. He had Bobby Firmino, Roberto Firmino, was a very unselfish number nine. Darwin Nunez, the late Diogo Jota, and Luis Diaz, even Sadio Mane to an extent, right? Because Sadio Mane loved scoring goals, but a lot of times you could see that he would be so unselfish, and the fact that he had such great movement, he took away a lot of defenders, and that really ended up benefiting Salah, right? Now, if you look at the kind of signings that Liverpool have made. Uh, in this season, and just look at their forward line right now. You've got Alexander Isak. Is Isak a Firmino profile or a Darwin Nunez profile? The answer is no, right? There's also the factor that Isak is a big money signing. Okay, there's also the factor that Salah will be off to AFCON in the coming weeks, and the fact that Salah is now 33. You take in all these factors, and it tells me that Liverpool are really looking at the season as maybe we'll just let this go. Let's just see where it takes us, right? Because Salah is such a big legend. I don't think they're gonna kick him out. It's going to be very harsh. I think what the thinking is, let's just see where it goes, and we'll have the season as a write-off. Okay, because Isak cannot offer what Firmino used to, what Darwin Nunes used to. Uh, on the left wing, they don't have a Luis Diaz profile, right? Who can take on defenders and really drag a couple of defenders from inside the box, and to free up space for Mo Salah. So the other players are this Ekitike, there is Gakpo. I feel there's a very obvious case where all of this is. And I mean, I've been a victim of this as someone who's owned Salah and Haaland. I mean, if I had just got Semenyo on the team instead of Salah, I would have been flying right now, right? But see, uh, the reality is that it's not really looking good for Salah. It's not looking good for Liverpool as a whole. They're not really performing at the level they should as a top team. Florian Wirtz is another problem, and the price factor for Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak means that there's a lot of pressure on Ane Slot to make it work with both of them, right? He cannot keep benching Florian Wirtz in every game. He cannot keep benching Alexander Isak. Otherwise Isak in the next summer will say that I want to go to Real Madrid. I want to force a move. What will Liverpool do about it? There's not much they cannot, keep a player hostage. They'll have to let him go. Florian Wirtz, I think he's a big mistake Liverpool have made. It's a terrible signing. He looks out of sorts. Of course, he'll score some goals. He'll get some assists, but he'll he looks so off the pace, right? Always takes that extra touch, and he doesn't really look like he's up to the task at the level that is required in the Premier League. So I think that's a bad signing. So I feel all in all that Liverpool have made some bad transfer decisions this year, and they've not really picked profiles in terms of getting the best out of their main man, that is Mo Salah. Now, how they'll do it, when they'll do it, is not really our concern, right? We are just trying to understand how all of this will benefit us in FPL terms. Okay, that's the whole idea. But the point is that it doesn't look like it's gonna work out. To me, in reality, it really feels like this will work out if they sort of bench Salah and they start using Frimpong as a right wing option. That's the only way I can see this Liverpool side sort of working well in terms of their attack. So that's where I am coming from. So with all their struggles, I feel, and all the factor, obviously it makes Salah a bad option, but at the same time I would not look at the next fixture as a bad fixture for Manchester United. I think they can go to Anfield, they'll do well. If it's like a game where it's very chaotic in the middle, I think it's a plus point for someone like a Bruno, for example. So that increases his chance of getting some defensive contribution points. And if he gets a penalty, I think he still has enough goodwill points in his bank, I would say, Bruno, to take the next penalty. But at the same time, I will not be surprised if Mbumo takes the next penalty. Speaking of Mbumo, right? So I think Bruno at this point is still obviously a very good pick. The other guy that I wanted to sort of talk about is actually, so Lemans is a great goalkeeper, by the way. Before I talk about the player I want to talk about, I think Lemans is a great keeper. Young goalkeeper coming in, very commanding in the box. He may make a few mistakes every now and then, but that is fine. The goalkeeper position in 2025 in modern day football is very, very dynamic, so that's completely okay. I don't think any United defenders at this point are really an FPL option. So you can probably ignore that. But I think if the goalkeeping is more stable, they look more secure at the back, I think it will really help them get better in the attack. And which is why I think with the options that are available, see, I don't really see Bruno as someone who will be rotated much, right? So Bruno is safe. I feel that in terms of minutes, you're really looking at an Mbumo who could maybe have some of his minutes cut here. I can really see some of the games where Mbumo's coming off and Amada's playing that higher up the pitch sort of a role. With Matthias Cunha, I tweeted about him a couple of weeks back, where just about the fact that I feel that despite him being a very good ball carrier, he needs to understand that Manchester United is not Wolverhampton, right? So he's not the main man here. A lot of times he has to release the ball, try to make better decisions when he's outside the box, try to play to the number nine or to Bruno or to Mbumo, right? So we saw there was a lot of truth in that, because against Sunderland, Cunha was benched because Mount played the game and he played really well. So I think there could be a bit of a rotation sort of a thing between Mount, Konya, and Mbumo, I feel, which leaves us with this guy, Benjamin Sheshko, and I think he had a terrific game against Sunderland. I think he was really good, and I feel that before the Sunderland game, actually, if you look at his match history, see, he played 90 against Sunderland, scored a goal. He was even better in the Brentford game, right? So we just go to his Brentford game numbers. See, this is Benjamin Sheshko. See, you look at his XG data. He was terrific. He took a total of 6 shots, right? One of them was outside the box, but 5 of them were in the penalty area, and up to one, two, three, 4 of them were very, very close to the goalkeeper. So that is what I was talking about from an optimal football point of view, right? Where you want your striker to take shots, yes, but you want them to take those shots as close to the goal as possible. So I think this is excellent, and because we are on Footmob, right? The features on this are fantastic. As you can see, right, you can click on each shot that a striker takes, or any player takes for that matter, and you'll just get a detail of what the shot type was it taken by the header, was it taken by the left foot, right foot, what was the situation, was it a regular play shot, was it a corner, was it from a penalty, was it from a throw in or whatever, and what was the outcome. So you see this shot, he took it very, very close to the goal, a regular play goal, but that ended up at the back of the net. And he had a few shots that he took very, very close to the goal as well, that were either saved by the goalkeeper. So you see 2 really high XG shots that were saved by the goalkeeper. So yeah, I think all in, it's just. I think he's looking really nice. I think Sheshko is an interesting one. What I like about him is that he suddenly had 2 games, right? So since he came into the picture at Manchester United, so initially I think before the international break, he was just coming off the bench. We really didn't look at him as an option. After the international break, he got a start in the City game. He played, one half of the Chelsea game. But since then, the Brentford and Sunderland game, he's played 90 minutes in both the games. Right, he's not been subbed off, and I think the kind of profile that Benjamin Sheshko is. I don't think United have a like-to-like replacement, really, right? So if they want to play another striker, maybe a Cunha, then it's a very different way of playing, right? And the fact that there are not a lot of midweek games for United to worry about, I think that's all of these are a very positive factor for Benjamin Sheshko. So keep an eye out on this. And if you're really feeling punty, if you're brave enough, and if you're on a wild card, for example, I would really make this punt, right? I think it's a fine punt. So I think Sheshko could be a nice option for our teams from a long term perspective. But at the same time, what I think is that add him to your watch list for sure. And we'll go back to Manchester and its fixtures. They play Liverpool, then they play Brighton, Nottingham. I think Nottingham is a good game as well. They play Everton, Palace, West Ham, Wolves. They play Villa. I think United have steady fixtures, and if he looks like he's nailed, and about the penalty situation, right? There's also a chance if Bruno's not taking it. I think I can also back Sheshko to sort of Benjamin Sheshko to take the penalty as well, because he's a good penalty taker too. So keep an eye out on the situation. I would say, uh, if If Benjamin Sheshko, I think he starts the next two and plays the 90 minutes, I think I'll be very, very confident of him being a pick, right? Because he's putting up good underlying data. He's just doing good in the 90 minutes that he plays, right? So just a shout out, obviously. So long story short, I think Liverpool are struggling. Uh, in my team personally, I have Salah, and I think he's a sell. I would also look at moving Van Dijk on because the defense looks bad. Uh, and the defcons, maybe he'll get it every now and then, maybe he'll score a goal every now and then, but it's not really looking good from Liverpool's perspective overall. Another United player that I'm it's not rocket science, right? I like the fact that Mbomo is so involved, right, when United are playing. I think just from an open play perspective, in games where United are really on the counter, uh, Mbomo is very much involved. And when I watch Mbomo, I really look at him as someone who's very similar to Salah. Like Salah, when he was good, right, is very similar to what we see from Mbomo right now, because he's always trying to be direct. He's trying to put away a shot, and that really reflects in his numbers as well, right? He's taken 17 shots. Quite a few of them have come inside the penalty area, as you can see on the screen, and. Been unlucky because he's been a bit inconsistent in terms of finishing, right? Just one goal to his name. So I think the goals will come, the assists will come as well. He was unlucky, and in situations where he won a penalty, he should have gotten an assist for that, but Bruno didn't convert it. So I feel he was a bit unlucky in that regard. But I think all in all, right, if you look at it as expected assist and you look at it as expected goals data, you're really looking at an expected involvement of 3.5 to 4, right? And he's got just two returns so far. I think it should have been more, and I think the returns will come. If you have Mbuma, if you have Bruno, and obviously you add Sheshko to the list, these three players. So if you have these players, I think you have to be patient. Don't look at the don't let the noise sort of distract you. From I think United will come good, right? I have faith in that, and Sheshko is definitely in my watch list as well. So it's not like I'm you know suggesting him for the sake of it. But I think if you're looking at a wildcard draft where you are trying to get three strikers in, if I was in the boat, I would be brave enough to take a punt on Benjamin Sheshko for sure, right? So that's a story. That's a story. I think the underlying data tells us a lot that we may miss out on when we look at the actual table, right? So it tells us that United as a whole are the top two teams in the league. That's the reality. Not just that, if you look at the numbers here, you look at just the XG number, United are actually, objectively speaking, in terms of the kind of chances that they are creating, forget about the conversion, right? Their finishing is inconsistent. Purely in terms of their underlying attacking data, they are the best team in the league as of now. Yeah, absolutely on another level. Yes, you look at the top four. Top four. You're looking at Arsenal, City, Palace, United. But look at the team with the highest XG is actually Manchester United, right? So you look at some of the narratives on social media. You would believe that United are doing so bad, but that's not the case. And I feel that this will all sort of fall into place in the coming weeks. Remember, variance is something that evens out over the course of time, right? Palace have been looking impressive, but like I said, I don't want to repeat myself on Palace. That I just feel that the last 20-30 minutes they sort of struggle. But if we are getting in some of their players in the team, and they are they're getting us points in the first 16 minutes, then we don't really care if they end up drawing or losing, right? Because this is an FPL podcast at the end of the day. Keeping that whole lethargic sort of thing in my mind, I'm just worried that their defenders may not be as good going forward. So you're looking at someone like a Lacroix, like a Munoz, or a Richards, Gahey, whoever you have in your team. I feel that we'll start seeing a lot of instances where sort of they wear out, and they end up conceding some late goals. Now, if that results in a draw or a loss for Palace, again, like I said, we do not care about that year. We're looking at it from an FPL perspective, which makes me think that their defenders may not be a good option, that good of an option going forward. But at the same time, if you look at it from an attacking perspective, all right, because they have such good XG data as well, the Bournemouth game I feel is okay. Both teams will really try to play direct football. I think there could be some goals in that. Then they travel. They have a Conference League game. Uh, the next fixture is against Arsenal. That could be a little tricky. I think Arsenal are the only side in the league where I would be like, okay, maybe a team like Palace struggles against them. We don't know. Then there's an EFL Cup, a Carabao Cup game. After that, they play Brentford, they play Brighton, they play Wolves, they play United, Burnley, Fulham. So there's quite a few good fixtures from an attacking perspective upcoming. With given what I've just told them, said about their defensive thing, right, where I feel that they could struggle defensively. I have a player that I really like. Obviously, Mateta is. I spoke about him right at the start of the podcast, where he's getting a lot of chances. The problem is that he just looks a bit, that season where he looks a little tired. He's got a bit of a mental fatigue as well. So he's not making the best decisions in terms of the goal, and I think his minutes could be a problem going forward. Still, I feel if you have Mateta in your team, I think you need to hold on to him. But if you don't have him, I don't think I would buy him, right? But there's also another factor to it. There's not a lot of striker options that are doing well. So I think it's a very 50-50 situation with Mateta. But if you own him, I think you hold on to him and you hope that he does better. If he does not, then yeah, maybe you can move him on to someone like a Joao Pedro, for example, who also has very good fixtures coming up. Because we're talking about Crystal Palace right now, what I wanted to talk about is this guy, Ismail Assar. I think it will be such an injustice to call Sarr a midfielder, right? He's listed as a midfielder in FPL, but just look at some of the positions that he takes up, and he's a pure, I would say, fox in the box, right? He's not the kind of guy who will like to take a pop at goal from a distance. He likes to shoot from very close to goal, right? I think he also benefits from Mateta or Enketia, who is playing the number 9 role, from the striker being the focal point and really just dragging those defenders, and that frees up space for someone like a Sarr, right? So I think I like him. I'll be probably looking at getting him in my team very soon, maybe after the Arsenal game. Let's see, because this week they're playing Bournemouth and then they are playing Arsenal. Uh, but if you are on wildcard, I think you can just get Sarr in your team and maybe play him against Bournemouth and bench him against Arsenal. I think that's absolutely fine. But the XG data is looking really good. Once again, we are on the FootMob app, looking at Ismail Assar's data. You look at the short map here. This is such a fantastic app that shows you all the situations where Sarr took the shot, whether it was a right-footed shot, whether it was a header. So he's got 2 right-footed shots, 2 headers. All 7 shots have come inside the box. 3 of them have resulted in goals. And you also see the situations where he took these shots, right? So 4 of them from regular play. You look at this. 1 from a corner, 1 from fast break. So he's always that kind of guy. So see, in these kind of situations, right, we're looking at a player like Sarr. Now this shot is a little further from goal, but in reality, when you're on a fast break, right, you all have a lot of space, right? If it's like a 1v1 situation, this is actually a good, I would say, goal scoring position, even though the numbers may not reflect into that. Remember, you always take numbers with a lot of context. So you're looking at Sarr being the final ball, the final outlet. Whenever Palace are on a fast break, I think that really breeds points. In the longer sense perspective. So I really like Sarr. I think he'll come good. If you have him, you got to play him against Bournemouth. If you are on wildcard, definitely pick him as a long-term pick, because once he's done with the Bournemouth game, and especially the Arsenal game, which I believe is a tough one, then the fixtures are really easing up. And I said, despite the factor that we spoke about Palace getting tired and maybe conceding goals towards the end of the games, I think that's a non-factor for someone like Sarr, right? Because if he's doing the job for you in the first 50, 60 minutes, it doesn't matter if they're winning or losing. And even if Palace are not looking good, in terms of their defense in the last 20-30 minutes, what is their best chance to score a goal in these kind of situations when they're not looking good? It's obviously a fast break. And who's the final ball? Who's the outlet on these in these kind of situations of Crystal Palace? It's Ismail Sarr, right? So I really like him for that reason. I like him a lot more than a Mateta, for example. Right now in my team, I think I have some spare funds, in my team personally as well. So I may be looking at a situation where I, just move on. Sound like an Elliot Anderson, I take him out and I upgrade him to Ismail Assar, and I can just play him week in week out, and I can just bench Senesi or Caicedo every now and then. That's the whole idea. The other teams that I wanted to discuss, just looking and see, if you look at the expected points, the XG table, it's very obvious that the top two teams in the league are City and Arsenal for sure, right? Talk about Arsenal, just wanted to touch a little bit on Chelsea because I feel they've been a little unlucky because of the Palmer injury. Because Palmer is such a high stature player, right? Such a world class player. You take him out, it does affect, a team like Chelsea. So, and you look at this, right? You're looking at the season stats here for Chelsea, just in terms of the output, in terms of who scored the most goals for them. They've really struggled, right? Caicedo has come up clutch with like 3 goals this season. Enzo has scored, three Premier League goals as well. Joao Pedro has 3 assists, 2 goals. Was not really big, bulk of them, right? In terms of a player with 5 or 6 goals, and who's the most likely player to get those kind of returns is actually Cole Palmer, and he's been out injured. So with his injury looking a bit serious, I think it opens the door on for a player who I feel will now be their main man. And despite the talk that Enzo Fernandez could be on penalties, I believe that Joao Pedro was kind enough to let him take the penalty in the game where Enzo took the penalty. And I think keeping all of that in mind, I really cannot look past Joao Pedro. I think he's a terrific pick, especially with the kind of fixtures that are coming up for Chelsea. So we'll look at the fixtures, but before that, we'll also do a bit of a analysis of his underlying data. Now, this has to be taken with a pinch of salt because in the last 4 games he's not really taken a lot of shots, and the reason is, you have to take the game state into consideration, right? 2 of those games, Chelsea were really struggling with the red card, so that sort of really affected him, and it will not show in the numbers, but in those games, there were a lot of times where Joao Pedro was hogging inside the box, but there's not enough service really to benefit him. So those are the things that sort of come into the play. But I feel that this whole story of him not taking a lot of shots will improve going forward with the fixtures, and the fact that if Palmer is out for a long time, Joao Pedro is as nailed as it comes in that Chelsea 11. I think he'll play, he'll start games, and I have the kind of confidence, unlike people who are expecting Enzo to be the main penalty taker. I think the main penalty taker when Palmer is not on the pitch is actually Joao Pedro. That's what I think. That's what my takeaway is. So I think Joao Pedro is an interesting one. Obviously, the other one that you can get, because see, one player is not enough, right? The fixtures are really turning. We'll just look at the Chelsea fixtures here. Right after the international break, they're playing Nottingham Forest. The manager is Ange Postecoglou. We know that Nottingham will try to attack. There's going to be a lot of space for Chelsea to have fun, and I think it could be a game where Joao Pedro can really haul. I feel he can get an attacking return or two in that game, right? The next one against Sunderland is again a very good fixture. I think the Tottenham game could be an okay fixture, but right after that they play Wolverhampton and then they play Burnley as well. Then yeah, if you look at it a month or two down the line, they then suddenly got Arsenal, but that's 4 or 5 weeks. So when 4 or 5 weeks is a lot in FPL terms, especially in a season like this where the market is as volatile as it has ever been. So I look at this as an opportunity if you don't have. I know a lot of casual teams have Joao Pedro, right? Unlike the content creators, everyone was very, very much hot on Joao Pedro and they benefited from that, right? It's a very simple decision. They backed Joao Pedro, they got good returns out of it. Joao Pedro has went a bit cold in recent weeks, but I think in the next 4 or 5 he can really turn it up. And then maybe if you have some cash in the bank, you can assess the Liverpool situation. If Isak is suddenly starting every single game, I mean, this is what I am planning to, right? It's an easy upgrade. So if I get Joao Pedro in, I'll leave some cash in the bank, and I can always look at upgrading Joao Pedro to Alexander Isak around maybe game week 12 or something, where Liverpool suddenly have a sea of green fixtures coming up, and it turns a little tough for Chelsea going forward. So sorry. So yeah, back to obviously we've established that Chelsea have sort of decent fixtures coming up. I don't think any of their defenders or Robert Sanchez are a serious option. None of their defenders do well in terms of defcon, and with Kokorea you're really just betting on him getting an assist every now and then. I don't think that's really justifying the price that Kukurea is in FPL this year. That leaves us with two more Chelsea options. The other one is obviously if you want to have a dead option on your bench who may start a game every now and then, you go for Mark Gui, right? But listen, with the kind of fixtures that are coming up, if you don't have Mark Gui, I think you need to immediately get Joao Pedro, and I like two of their midfielders. One of them I've already got in my team personally, Moises Caicedo. It's a player that I really like. With these kind of players, you don't really pay much attention to the underlying data, right? You're not buying Caicedo for the underlying data. He's always been that kind of a player who has a really nice long range goal in him, and we saw that against Liverpool as well. And uh, the thing with Caicedo is that you are essentially buying him for a higher floor. So he's the kind of guy that you bring him, into your team, and he'll keep ticking along with the defcons. Very strong defcon numbers. I think he'll hit 12 defcon in most games, if not all the games. So I think for that reason you really have to back Caicedo. So I really like him. I think he offers a secure floor of at least 4 points in every single game, and because he has, I think from a football perspective, right, he always has a very good game in terms of a football perspective. So you're looking at a game where he gets his DEFCON points and he gets an assist or something, for example, he's immediately in the bonus points as well, right? So all you need from Caicedo is to get you a random assist and you walk away with 8 9 points, and that's really good. We even saw it this game week where Caicedo scored a goal. He didn't really hit the 12 DEFCON because of the reasons that I said earlier, right? He was playing slightly deeper and just circulating the ball, and Romeo Lavia sort of came in, and that became a factor, obviously. But, all things said, is the reality is that he scored a goal. He got 3 bonus points because he really has a solid game from a real life perspective as well. So a guy like Caicedo, as soon as he gets a goal or an assist, he's immediately going to get you some bonus point or the other. And with the new DEFCON rules, I think players like Caicedo are a cheat code. You really have to get him in your team. So I really like Caicedo. I think all things considered from a long term perspective. So see, I was talking about Joao Pedro right now, right? I'm really keen on getting him in for the next 4 or 5. But Joao Pedro is not the guy I want in my team for the next 30 weeks. But if you look at someone like Caicedo, I'm more than happy to have him in my team for the entirety of the season. It's just the kind of a pick that he is. And the fact that no content creator likes him, they don't talk about him at all, right? It comes from the stigma that he's a CDM and we can do better. Fine, don't pick him. It's absolutely okay. I'm more than happy to have him. He's going to be a steady pick for me going forward. It's going to be a steady pick. He'll get me returns. And yeah, that's Caicedo is a no-brainer, man. If you're following me, uh, I've spoken about him before. Trust me, bring him in. you will have one spot in your team that you don't have to worry about for the rest of the season. If you just use common sense, you're looking at a player that you're backing to start, let's say if not all 38 games, you're at least backing him to start 35 Premier League games if he's staying fit, for example. And in those 35 games, he is pretty much, most of the times, he's a 90-minute man. Okay, so he'll be on the pitch all the time, which improves his defcon potential. Let's say he's hitting defcon in 20 out of, let's say he's not doing it in all game, but he's hitting defcon in 20 games out of we'll just go back to the Premier League side. Well, I just want to use this logic and see that how that works out for him. Let's say he hits, out of the 38 games, he's getting defcon in 20 points, for example. See, this is last year's data, all right, where he was not getting defcon, all right. So he scored a goal, he had like 4 assists. So see, over the last few seasons, we see he's always been that 4-5 attacking returns kind of a player, all right. Now you take a base of 40 points for his defcon, because I'm taking a scenario where he'll get defcon in 20 out of 38 games. I am pretty sure he'll get it in more games, in games more than 20. Let's say you take a sample of 20 games, right? You're immediately looking at a base of 40 points. Now in FPL terms, 40 points is actually equal to almost 7 goals. Like, just imagine, it's massive, right? You have, at the end of the season, when you look back at it, and a lot of people are going to be like, wow, like this is crazy, right? And the fact that if he has defcon, and then some of the games where he's scoring and assisting and keeping defcon, you're also looking at some more bonus points as well on top of that. So let's add another 10-15 to it. So the 98 points that you see for Caicedo last season, if the rules that we are seeing currently apply to that, you're really looking at a total score of 150 points, according to me. 150, 155 for 5.5 million. That's an absolute steal, right? Are we looking at a crazy secure base? And if I just go with the pure logic of him getting 4 points, every week, accounting for a random yellow card here and there, 4 into 40, if I do that, it's approximately 160. And if you take into account these random goals and assists here and there, I really see, maybe I'm overestimating it, I really think Caicedo could end up with a season where he's getting, let's say, I think he can get very close to 200 points this season, right? Defcon is an absolute game changer. So keep an eye out on him. I think I really like him, right? I would definitely get Caicedo in my team. And the third Chelsea player that I like, obviously, is Enzo Fernandez, because he has strong underlying data. Because Palmer is not playing, he gets the license to sort of, make those runs inside the box every now and then. But to me, Enzo also is very similar to Joao Pedro. I'll get him in for the next 4 or 5, and then I'll move him on for someone else. But Caicedo, I think if you still don't have him, he's a very, very good long term pick. Get him in your team and forget about that one spot in your team for the rest of the season. Do the upside chasing with the other 10 spots. Obviously, you look at Haaland as a set and forget as well, or the goalkeeper. So just forget about these 3-4 spots in your team, and there's a lot of other places that you can do this tinkering here and there, I feel. So I think Enzo is nice as well. And if it turns out the popular narrative that Enzo is the first choice penalty taker with Palmer out is true, then you're really getting a guy who is on pens, he's playing further up the pitch, and a guy who has really strong underlying data. If I am not wrong, I was just looking at some of the player stats, and where is Enzo Fernandez? I think I saw him somewhere. See, yeah, this expected, you don't really expect Enzo to be a part of this, right? But if you look at the top players in the league this season for expected goals, obviously Haaland is at the top, as you can see here. Second is Joan Philip Mateta with 4.1 xg. I spoke about him earlier, if you remember, right? So I won't go into that again. The third is actually Enzo Fernandez. Now, some of this is obviously inflated by the penalty that he took earlier in the season, but that's still not bad, right? 3 xg, that would still put him, right at in good company of these players, I would say. He in fact has Enzo Fernandez has better XG data than Antoine Semenyo, so I feel that is terrific as well. So yeah, if you really want to go, bold on Chelsea, for example, I think there is an opportunity. There is an opportunity. You can go for Joao Pedro, Enzo Fernandez, and Moises Caicedo. But just to reiterate, I would look at Pedro and Enzo as more of medium-term punts for 4 or 5 weeks, and Caicedo as someone you can just bring in and forget about him for the rest of the season. Enough talk on Chelsea. Just before we wrap up this episode, I would want to talk about City very quickly. See, not much to talk about City. I feel because Haaland, I think City are just the kind of season, and that is very normal when you have players like Haaland in your team, right? So if you go back, for example, and you look at the best teams in the world of, if even in terms of your history outside the Premier League. So we look at the famous Barcelona side, and when Messi was playing for them, obviously this is before Suarez and Neymar sort of all came in. Messi was the main guy, right? He was very talismanic. So whenever Barcelona scored, it was always Messi scoring or assisting. You can apply that to Ronaldo when he was at Real Madrid as well, right? Yes, there was a Benzema, and he did sort of, Benzema was a different player when he was playing with the Ronaldo, right? Or even a Bale or anyone, right? Throughout Ronaldo's tenure at Real Madrid, he was the talisman, right? Every time Real Madrid scored, you just knew that it's going to be Ronaldo either scoring or assisting, and even in the Champions League or in the La Liga. So I think with these kind of players, you always have that. Even Lewandowski, you take him when he was at Bayern Munich, right? Every time Bayern scored, you knew that Lewandowski is involved, and you see that at Bayern even right now with Harry Kane, right? Wherever they're scoring, it's either Harry Kane scoring or assisting, and I think it's a very similar situation with Erling Haaland. We're looking at a world class player. To me, he's the best player in the world right now, all things considered, and yeah, it's just looking really good, I would say, from a talisman perspective for Erling Haaland, where everything is just going through him. He is the one who's at the end of the crosses, at the end of the passes. City are playing direct football, so that's really good news, because it really suits Haaland's playing style, and he's added so much more to his games. I think there'll be games where he'll be a lot more involved, right? Where yes, he will score some goals, but he'll also get an assist or so here and there. I think that's really looking good from Haaland's perspective, and that obviously makes him a no-brainer for all our teams, right? If you still don't have Haaland, just get him in your team. That's the point. But what we're really talking about is that also means that apart from Haaland, we don't really have a lot of other Man City options as picks in FPL. Like in the start of the season, I was very keen on having a one midfield spot just to figure out who's going to be the main man. Now the problem was that there were a lot of injuries at Man City, which means that Pep was forced to start Reinders, Foden, Doku in pretty much every game. But as we saw in the midweek, in the weekend game against Brentford, as soon as Pep had another option in Savio, he played Savio and he benched Doku, despite the fact that Doku was so good. I mean, Doku has been terrific this season, right? So he still did that. So that, I think, is a bit of a caution. So if you have Doku and uh, Foden in your team, or if you're on a wild card and if you want to punt on a City midfielder, I would say don't do it as of now, right? Just keep them in your watch list because all of them are pretty much coming back. I think Ryan Cherky will be back as well. So then suddenly you're looking at so many options. You've got Foden, Cherky, Doku, Savio, Oscar Bob, all these players, and they're just competing for two or three spots. So there's going to be a lot of rotation, and and Pep is the kind of a manager who does not really look at one competition as a priority, right? So if you look at like an Arsenal, for example, right, I have a feeling that Arsenal will really prioritize the Premier League games. Pep is a bit more paranoid of a manager in terms of his nature, where he can just mix it up, right? He will play, let's say, Foden in Premier League game and then play him again in the Champions League and then bench him in the next Premier League game, right? Now that works well for City in terms of their squad depth and everything, but Does it work well for FPL managers? If you have a Foden or a Doku in the team, the answer is no. And also remember that Pep really likes Bernardo Silva to the extent that a lot of people were expecting the new Man City captain to be Diaz or Rodri. Obviously, Ruben Diaz and Rodri are a part of the leadership group; they are vice captains. But it was Pep who actually intervened, and he made Bernardo Silva the club captain this year. So he really likes Bernardo Silva as a player, and I feel that Pep will always look for excuses to give game time to Bernardo Silva. Uh, and he is versatile, right? Bernardo Silva is not an FPL option, but he's versatile, which means he can eat into the minutes of Reinders, as we saw in the Brentford game. He can eat into the minutes of one of the wingers as well, because Pep also plays Bernardo Silva in the right wing role a lot of times, right? Where he's just looking at him as a ball retainer option on the right side. So I think a lot of you know, would you want to call it red flags or whatever? But yeah, just stay with Haaland for now, right? Don't pick any other Man City midfielder. If it turns out that someone like a Cherky or Foden or Doku is playing on an absolutely groundbreaking level, where they're performing at a level where Pep simply does not have an option to bench them, we get enough hints that yes, this player is going to start at least the next 8 out of 10 games, then I think we can definitely. But as of now, we don't know who that player is going to be. That is exactly the problem. I think once we figure that out, let's wait and figure that out, and then I think we'll have more clarity on the Manchester City situation. If you have Foden for now, I think you probably keep him and assess. Uh, but yeah, I think that there's a lot more that we'll find out in the coming weeks. Last but not the least is a team that most people are talking about. I made a very bold move of going with a triple up in terms of their uh, the Arsenal defense, right? And it's very bold of me to do that because I took out Gyökeres to sort of bring in the three Arsenal defenders, right? See, this is why I don't like Gyökeres is I tweeted the other day that I was looking at before. This is before the West Ham game, by the way. I was looking at Arsenal's underlying data, attacking data from a non-penalty filter, and Gyökeres didn't even have the highest non-pen XG for an Arsenal player, right? It was actually Timber and Calafiori, and that sort of made me, just make that risky move of taking him out before West Ham at home. Because remember, it is a fixture where people were like, "Oh, Gyökeres is going to go nuts in this. He'll score 2 or 3 goals." But I really backed myself where I felt that Gyökeres is not really looking the part. I feel he's still struggling to get into goal scoring positions, and I don't think he'll be ever, be able to overcome that in the Premier League. This is a very different ball game. It's not the Portuguese league, right? He's not going to have it easy. But I think, to be fair to him, not from an FPL perspective, but from a real life perspective, what he's doing is he's adding a lot of value to Arsenal as a team, right? He's just really working hard off the ball, just pressing a lot and stuff, and that is benefiting Arsenal. And Mikel Arteta sort of spoke about in the post match conference as well, that he's very thankful to Gyökeres in terms of what he's bringing on the table as a player, not as a striker, which means that Arteta is okay with the way things are right now. I don't really see him pushing Gyökeres that you have to get the goals, because what he's doing right now is working, and it's almost a case of football socialism where everyone scores goals, everyone is getting an assist, and that is good news if you own Timber, if you own Calafiori. I mean, Calafiori could have scored once again in that West Ham game. Timber was so attacking, right? I tweeted about it. I think it didn't get any interaction because obviously I'm not one of the biggest content creators in the community. If someone else would have tweeted it, it would have went viral. And I tweeted it before Timber got the assist for the Saka penalty as well, right? So it's just very clear from the eye test perspective as well that Timber is doing so well. Calafiori is doing so well as well, and the fact that Arsenal such have a robust defense, right? When I'm watching their games, I almost have this confidence that they will not concede a goal. I don't know if they're going to score a goal or not, and I don't care about it, right? Because from an FPL perspective, I want uh, their defenders to get me clean sheet points, and that's happening right now. And then the underlying data is looking really good. Yes, there will be some weeks where they blank. There's a stupid goal that goes into the back of the net, and I lose three clean sheets on one go, and that is fine. I think that's the risk that comes with it, but the upside is so big because everyone's going to have an Arsenal defender in the team. But what I've done is I've taken it to another level, not two. I'm going to have three Arsenal defenders, and out of those three, the two Arsenal defenders, the two fullbacks, I don't really look at them as defenders. I look at them as attackers that are getting me clean sheet points, right? And that's also the way Arsenal are setting up this year. Calafiori is really a winger. I don't really look at him as a fullback. And this, on top of that, is very interesting because my third Arsenal defender is Gabriel. And because Calafiori is playing so higher up the pitch, I feel that's really helping Gabriel get more defensive contribution points. Right? He's had to do a bit more defending there. So I think it's all worked out perfectly for me, and I'm very very happy to have three Arsenal defenders. Having said that, if you still own Gyökeres, I don't think he's the worst pick in the world, but I think you can still do better. Now, whether you want to sell him or not is totally up to you, right? It's definitely a risk because, you know. But at the same time, is he the first choice penalty taker? The answer is no. He's not on pens anymore, and his non-pen XG is not that great. So to be very blunt with you, I feel you should be brave enough to sell Gyökeres. If you really want to punt on an Arsenal attacker, I think Saka is a better option. Uh, I expect him to take. I think it could be a 40, 60, 50, 50 sort of a thing, right? 60, 40, I mean, in Saka's favor. I think that makes him a good pick. He's also on set pieces, right? I feel Saka has more route to points as well. He can get some points from open play. He could score a penalty. He's also on set pieces, right? So he has a really nice delivery in him. So if he's on set pieces and Gabriel or Calafiori or Timber is scoring from those set pieces. Merino can be a scorer from set pieces as well. I think Saka gets an assist and he becomes instantly a good option. So I do like Saka as well. But yeah, I have a very heavy, I would say, defense bias when it comes to Arsenal, and that purely comes from the fact that they are the outright best defense in the league. At the end of the season, I know that Arsenal are going to be top when it comes to the most clean sheets in the league. And if that is the case, I want to have their defenders in my team. And if I can have two, I can have one or two, for example. I think I can justify three. But yes, the logical thing. I mean, don't be as maverick as me, of course. You can try to strike a bit of a balance. I think you can go for two. I think you can go for Gabriel or one of Timber or Calafiori, and you can go for Saka as a third pick. I think he's fine, but I don't like Gyökeres as much. I think if you have him, don't get into that rut of just keeping him because you have him. I think be a little brave, and if you have like two or three, I would say, uh, transfers saved in your bank, I think make that bold move, right? Just couple it with another decision that really looks good on paper. Take the risk and take him out, and you free up an Arsenal spot and get in a Saka or a Timber, Calafiori, whoever, along with Gabriel. I think that could work out well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. To sum it up, we've done a lot of deep diving into the underlying data. I think just from a transfer target perspective, because I get this question in my DMs a lot that especially about Palace, right? So that's why I did the bit of a deep diving and covering it. So in terms of transfer targets, right? I think spoken a lot about. I think Benjamin Sesko is definitely one for your watch list. I don't really see some out and out transfer targets this week. I think this week the fixtures are slightly tricky. So I don't think immediately I see an opportunity this week. I think you probably, if you're looking to really target, I think just be a little patient for 1 or 2 weeks, I would say, because if you have a popular template already, you already have someone like a Semenyo uh, in your team, right? So immediately I don't see an option apart from the Chelsea answer. So I think from a transfer target perspective, if you really want to bring in a player this week, I would say. I think immediately this week I would definitely look at bringing in an Arsenal defender. If you don't have one, we've done elaborate discussion on it, so I would not like to repeat myself. Or I would go for a Chelsea player, and obviously I would prefer a Caicedo. But if not, you can definitely go for a Joao Pedro or Enzo Fernandez as well. But the two players apart from these options that I really like are obviously Ismail Assar and Benjamin Sesko. I think you should have these players in your watch list. And if you can just be a little patient, I think game week 10 is a nice entry point for both of these players, especially for Ismail Sarr. Once he's played Arsenal, I think you can just bring in Sarr, and yeah, I feel is a great option. It's a treat watching him play. He's very, very attacking. And why wait for 2 weeks for Sesko is because Sesko, Sheshko, I think its pronunciation is Sheshko, so I'm just gotten used to that. So why wait a couple of weeks to bring in Benjamin Sheshko? Because you just want to get the assurity that yes, he is a 90-minute man, because he's played 90 minutes back to back. And if he continues to do well, I think if he starts another couple of games, then you'll have the assurance that yes, maybe he's not going to play 90 minutes, but at least he's starting playing 80, 85 minutes every game. And I think that's a good deal in FPL. And of course, the penalty situation at United, I think Bruno keeps the penalty, but if the situation does change, we'll find out whether it's Mbumo or it could be someone like Benjamin Sheshko who could be on penalties. Right, so we have done a lot of digging, a lot of talking. I think we've been speaking for the last 1 hour 40 minutes. It's been a very, very long pod. I'll just take you through my bus team for game week 8. What I've done is I've made a couple of moves in my team already. I finally had enough of Salah, so I have taken Salah out. And what moves did I make? So I took Salah out, and I wanted to bring in Semenyo. Now the problem was that because of the death spot on the bench, I had Krupi Jr. Okay, so I had to take him out. So I took a -4. I've taken Salah out. I've taken Krupi Jr. out, and I have got in Semenyo. So finally, I don't have to worry about Semenyo giving me pain. So Semenyo is in my team now, and Joao Pedro is in my team as well. So this is what the bus team looks like. Don't take the Caicedo benching seriously. I think I'm pretty much confident of playing him. It's just a matter of whether or not I feel this is the kind of game that is good for Reinders. So it's going to be a call between Reinders or Senesi. So because I have Petrovic in my team as well, what I will most likely end up doing is I'll just play Petrovic. See, with Senesi, if I bench him, it's a risk of losing out on 2 points. But I don't see a world where Palace don't score in that game, right? Maybe it could be a draw overall or whatever. Maybe Senesi scores a goal. But, so my thinking is, just I take Senesi out and I have him as first sub, and I go like a 4-4-2, right? Because my defense is so strong now, and I have some decent, picks in my midfield. Or what I can do is I could just bench Reinders, because I feel it's a home game, right? It's not the kind of game where I expect Reinders to do well, but on the other side of it, right, variance is such a funny thing that if you look at the last few weeks, right? I know the underlying data of Reinders won't show it. If you just watch the games, Reinders has been so unlucky to not get returns. So I don't want to be in a situation where I feel this okay. This is not the kind of game where I feel Reinders will do well, because see, at the end of the day, it's Everton at home. And what if he starts and he's playing 90, playing 70, 80, whatever, and he gets a jammy goal, and then I have like 9, 10, 11 points sitting on the bench. It's not right, but still I'm still deliberating. I'm not sure about it. I'm just very happy that I have this headache where I have to make a choice between two good options, right? And I feel even on my second bench in Elliot Anderson, I have an option that I can just call upon, right? If it's a random benching, he'll come on with 3-4 points, and that's nice. That's not bad at all. Elliot Anderson is a DEFCON monster as well. He will continue to get good points. in the coming weeks, if I'm just really happy with my team structure, there's a very good chance that I just downgrade Elliot Anderson to a king and just have him as a 4.5 bench option, because the rest of the team looks really good to me. So I'm pretty okay with that. In terms of captaincy, I don't really see a scope of experimenting. I think Holland is definitely a nice captaincy, safe captaincy shout. Again, he's going to be the most highly owned captaincy pick in the game. There is a part of me that really wants to captain Joao Pedro. So it's a decision that I will take very close to the deadline. I think this is the kind of game that will really suit Joao Pedro, because Ange is really going to attack, and that will leave a lot of space for Joao Pedro in there. So I think it could be his kind of a game. But it's very, very, I've not really made up my mind. It's going to be a long international break. Uh, I just want to, unwind, not think a lot about, FPL in general. And yeah, that's the whole idea. So captaincy's on Haaland for now, but I may end up captain Joao Pedro. I'll let you know on Twitter if I change my mind. So yeah, that's it for now. It's been a long pod. I've spoken so much. If you like my content, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Uh, Hit the like button, leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments as well. Follow me on Twitter. I do a lot of tweets here and there, and I'm mostly active. I'm more than happy to respond to any questions in my DMs as well. So you can drop me a message on Twitter, right? Just reach out to me on my DMs, and I'll be more than happy to get. Just make sure that you're following me on Twitter before you drop a message, because a lot of time, if you're not following me and you're just coming to my Twitter account to message me, it will most likely end up going in the spam folder, and that means I'll end up missing your message, right? And that's not really helpful. So yeah, follow me on Twitter. Drop. Drop a like on the video. A lot of effort goes into it. Yeah, like I do solo podcasts, and it's not easy. I mean, I used to do it with a group of two, three, four earlier, and that was much simpler. Doing this alone is a tough job, to be honest, because a lot of times you're just looking at yourself, you're looking at the screen, and you're just rambling to yourself for almost 1 hour, 2 hours. It's a tough job. So yeah, just as a thank you, drop a subscribe, and I will see you next week. Until then, it's a goodbye.